Welcome back to the Mina Show featuring Lenny, the only NFL podcast where one of the hosts thinks Omar Spates is what vets do to cats. That's Lenny. I'm Mina Spates. Omar Spates. I had to reach deep into the Rams' second linebacker to come up with a new intro. We're talking about the Rams today. We're talking about the Bears. We're talking about all 4 divisional round games. And the we is a reference to Bill Barnwell, for the audio audience who haven't seen him yet, host of the Bill Barnwell Show. Welcome back.
We're at that point of the year, aren't we? Like, I feel like over the summer, when we start the Meantime Show featuring Lenny in August and September, you're just humming with puns. You got a whole new set of players to work with. And now we're here in January, and it's like, Omar Spates.
Oh, I was going to do Tyrell Shavers is what the vet does to Lenny, but felt bad with the injury. So I was trying to come up with an active player.
I felt bad because I tweeted that the Bills played Tyrell Shavers for more snaps in the second half of the game than Keon Coleman, and Tyrell Shavers had a torn ACL while it was happening. That's where we're at with the Keon Coleman experience in Buffalo.
The Bills have run out of wide receivers. And we're going to start with that game because we're going to go in chronological order. Bill, this is a good one. As always, we are picking. Ben was really hot last week. I went 500, which is not great. But there were close games, right? The ones I was on. I guess the Niners Eagles is the more like that was the one where I was just like, this is just embarrassing. But this one, I would say, was this my hardest one to pick? It might be. I don't know. I want to hear it. Like, so this is a revenge game for Denver. The Bills knocked them out of the playoffs. But the vibes were good that year. It was like Denver wasn't supposed to be here. It's the rookie quarterback. He had a big play in early in the game and then struggled from that point on. That doesn't feel like the vibe this year. Like, I think it would be very disappointing for Denver, the 1 seed, to get knocked out. Well, obviously.
Yeah. It's weird because, like, if you would have sat here and said, okay, the Broncos are going from being a wild card team to being the 1 seed in the AFC, the easiest way that would have happened would have been Bo Nix year 2 leap, right? But that's not really what happened. We got like a basically the same season from Bo Nix. I think a little more positives. Honestly, a few more negative games, a few more ugly games maybe he had during his rookie season. It felt more inconsistent. And maybe that's like weirdly a positive against this Bills team. It doesn't allow so many explosives that can be so inconsistent, miss so many tackles. It feels like maybe the better path is to have that ability to kind of spike those big plays as the game goes on, as opposed to expecting to be consistent. Whereas you flip it and you go back to last year's game with Bills-Broncos, Broncos couldn't get the Bills off the field. There was an 11-play drive, a 12-play drive, a 13-play drive, a 14-play drive. So it sort of feels like you have these, obviously, 2 incredibly distinct quarterbacks and 2 defenses that kind of fit how to defend those quarterbacks in strange ways.
That's how I felt coming out of my prep, was that I thought both defenses were uniquely challenging matchups for both offenses. Denver, that one is a little bit easier, right? Because they've been a top 5 unit defense all year long. And, there were some cracks down the stretch, but even if you cut it in halves, are you going to feel that those cracks were bigger? Because I was about to say the cracks weren't that bad, even if you cut the season into halves. It was still a good defense down the stretch.
They were okay. But after the bye, those first 4 games, they play the Commanders with Mariota, they play the Raiders, they play the Packers, then they play the Jags, and oh my God, Trevor Lawrence is actually doing a game. 27th in EPA per play over that 4-game stretch. And they finished the year with Chris Ludicon and Trey Lance. And our hero Trey Lance, sadly, did not conquer the Broncos in the final game of the year. But they were kind of mediocre, pretty bad, actually, those final 4 games. And then we kind of got 2 games against backups and meaningless competition to sort of help kind of, suss that over. And I don't think they're really the 27th best defense in football, but that is a pretty significant crack for a month, really, of football.
Well, to your eye, what were the vulnerabilities that popped up? There were, because I would say, like, I was looking back at, like, okay, who are the offenses who had success against them and what happened? And frequently it was just that they found Riley Moss or Jaquan McMillan in some cases. what do you like? Did anything jump out to you as being something potentially that the Bills could take advantage of?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of little things, right? It's not like there's this one blinking problem. I think people perceive Riley Moss to be that issue, and he's really not. It's not like Riley Moss is a bad player. He's just a super high volume player who gets a ton of targets. And so, I think in our head, we sort of wipe away the bad play or the plays he does a good job, and then we just remember the PIs or the long completions because he's getting targeted 10 times a game. Um, we've known all year you can sort of stretch these linebackers a bit. Really in coverage, you want to move them around. We saw the Eagles hit a big play against them in the passing game, attacking those linebackers. I know Drake Greenlaw has been in and out of the lineup. He really has not been his usual self this year when he's been on the field. Obviously, he's barely played since the Super Bowl a couple years ago. A little bit more PI here and there. And I think the tough part for the Bills, or for the Broncos in this game, is the same question I kind of had last year, which is, what the Broncos do best is they have a cornerback who can cover anybody, and that changes the way they can do everything else they want to do on the defensive side of the football. What do you do with
Brandon Beane is like, Yahtzee!
Yes.
We don't invest in wide receiver.
40 chess.
Joke's on you!
That's the part that I find so difficult for the Broncos. It's like, what do you do with this superstar player? The Bills are really good at tackle, and so the Broncos' edge rushers may have some issues, although obviously they're still going to get theirs. Of course, there's players who are going to have big games. I'm concerned about Zach Allen. I'm concerned about Talanoa Hufanga and what those guys can do to the Bills. But it just feels like the Broncos, they're a really terrifying matchup for some teams. It doesn't really feel like they fit the Bills' offense in a really convenient way for them.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about this because so we know what the Bills want to do. They want to run the ball.
Yeah.
And
sure.
Let's really start there. They want to run the ball. And then, they want to put big bodies on the field and throw the ball out of those looks.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen, well, we'll get to what I think he should do. But the Broncos' run defense is still very good. This was a defense that finished third in DVOA. In the second half of the season, since I was, looking at those splits, trying to figure out where they had gotten worse. They were still good success rate against the run, but actually 21st in EPA per play, so they gave up some explosive runs. So I do think there is potential for Buffalo to move the ball on the ground. This is a defense that plays a ton of man coverage. I anticipate they will against the Bills, teams that...
You know what that means?
Josh Allen scrambles.
Well, that means number one, Josh Allen scrambles. Number two, that means we're getting a lot of mesh from Joe Brady. We're getting like 10 reps of mesh in this game.
But honestly, you talked about the backers. There's worse approaches.
Good work.
So the other thing that caught my eye is, and this is over the course of the season, not even the second half, they're much better versus in-rhythm passes, meaning 2.5 to 3.3 seconds, and extended passes. They're actually just average against quick game, 16th in EPA per play. Josh Allen at this point is the best quick game quarterback in the NFL. It's kind of been one of the funniest things about his evolution. I mean, he was surgical against Jacksonville, right? Like everything came out quick, accurate, good decisions. So I do think that Bill's formula of like being patient with the run, sticking to it, quick game, not hunting big plays, Josh Allen making timely scrambles against man coverage, I can see that working. I just think it's going to be harder than it was against Jacksonville.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no question. The Jaguars were down a couple players in the secondary. The Bills were able to get to the weaker spots. They got to Jones. They got to Newsome in the secondary. As the game wore on, it wasn't hard to find those guys. Weirdly, Brandon Cooks is like de-aged by 10 years since he left the Saints somehow. It's a classic, you move from New Orleans to Buffalo when you get older to feel young and revitalized.
I mean, that game was the Josh Allen game, and then secondarily to that, it was Brandon Cooks and Trey White. What?
Yes.
We'll talk about Trey White in the pass defense, but Brandon Cooks was like, it wasn't like it wasn't just easy. He was making like difficult catches against tight coverage. I mean, I thought he was, but he's their wide receiver. I mean, Shakir is wide receiver 1, but he's 2 now.
No question. And he was getting open. And now that every other Bills wide receiver has a torn ACL, there's not really an alternative. I mean, it's going to be a lot of Brandon Cooks in this game. And so that leads me to think, sure, more 12, more 13, try to get bigger, try to force the Broncos into base, see if you can run on them with the nickel, which we'll talk about, frankly, in every one of these games. It feels like that's kind of the, the
Yeah.
story around the entire NFL in so many ways.
I
But
wrote 6-0L on like 3 out of 4 games multiple
yep,
times, including this one, by
yep,
the way, because that's something that the Bills do.
yes. Yeah, for sure. But it just sort of feels like we're going to see a lot of getting the ball out quick. We're going to see a lot of the run game. We saw like the same Khalil Shakir RPO a bunch of times last week. We're going to see that stuff again. And like, can the Broncos tackle well on that? They should. They're a good tackling team, but you never know. Like it might take one tackle we saw last week, Keon Coleman to pick up a 30-yard gain because he breaks one tackle. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on the non-certain defensive backs to make the right decisions. And for as good as the Broncos are, they can be aggressive to a fault. Like they're super aggressive, getting around the edge with their outside rushers. So maybe you run at those guys. Hufanga has incredible instincts, but he's going to try and jump stuff. So can you exploit those instincts, take advantage of that stuff? There's a quarterback who's really good at taking advantage of those things, setting stuff up and creating opportunities for his receivers. And I do think the Bills are going to have some success moving the ball in this game. I don't think it's going to be like a game where the Broncos shut them down and the Bills are going to have to win 14-10. I don't think they can win that kind of game given their defense, and I don't think they're going to need to.
If it's a go ball, Brandon Cooks versus Riley Moss, because it's going to happen, right? I'm telling you. Who are you taking? 50-50 ball.
I'm taking Riley Moss, but there's a chance he's getting PI. What was that? Who was it in the Seahawks Patriots Super Bowl where it was like the guaranteed PI and then it happened during the game?
Oh God.
Was it Torrey Smith? No, Torrey Smith wasn't on the Patriots.
Was it Chris Matthews or
there was a Torrey Smith? So it was Torrey Smith versus somebody in the Super Bowl where like Torrey Smith had drawn the most PIs all year. And I want to say it was a Seahawks corner, but maybe it was Byron Maxwell. It was some kind of cornerback who had taken a ton of PIs, and then
that was my first interaction with Torrey Smith, where before he retired, and I'm very friendly with him, but I posted something like, "Oh, like Torrey Smith, guess it's PI or something," and he wrote back like, "Yeah, that's a skill" or something. I don't want to misrepresent the interaction, but this is before I worked at ESPN, I think. Yes. Anyways, okay, other side of the ball. So after the wild card round, I experienced the unfortunate thing where Liam Cohen turned me into a run the damn ball guy. I hate that. Don't do that to me.
But like it was so frustrating to watch. It's so rare that like the entire internet comes together on a topic. Having it be that was very confusing to me.
So the Broncos have a better run game than I thought.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it feels worse than statistically it is. Obviously dropped off after they lost J.K. Dobbins, but since week 10, it's not explosive, but they're third in success rate. Running backs, I took out Bo Nix because I wanted to see it. I'll be interested to see whether they go more RJ Harvey or Julian McLaughlin, who the advanced metrics actually like better, by the way. But so FTN tracks, so we know the Bills' run defense is the weakness. That was why the Jags sing. To drill into it a little bit more, the Broncos average 5.3 yards per carry running outside zone, which is 5th best in the NFL. And the Bills' run defense allows over 5 yards per carry, which is 25th in the NFL. So that would seem to be a mismatch that Sean Payton can lean into and potentially, keep his quarterback settled against the Bills' pass defense, which I think will do things that give him trouble.
Yeah, I mean, you saw not just outside zone against the Bills, you saw pin pull work for the Jaguars. You saw crack toss where Jacoby Myers jacked up somebody.
Yeah,
I forget who it was. Was it Joey Bosa? He jacked up somebody.
I don't remember, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes. It was just like this series of terrifying outside runs where it felt like if the Jaguars got 6 yards, it was like, well, that was kind of a victory for the Bills given how bad they have been. Anything short of like a 9-yard gain felt like a modest win. And so I'm intrigued to see if Sean Payton can stick to it more than Liam Cohen can. Like, this is not a guy who, even at his best offenses, we're desperate to run the football. Like, he'll run it, but their efficiency has usually come from having a really good passing game and not just, 20 or 30 runs per game. And so with 2 weeks to prep, sort of expecting maybe to play the Bills. Like what everything tells us is they should be running the ball a ton. And will they stick with it if they struggle early? Will they stick with it if it means Bo Nix is going to be facing third down a lot? Like it's going to be an interesting psychological thing as much as it is an on the field thing for me.
Bo Nix needs to be part of this.
Yes.
The Buffalo defense versus quarterback runs 30th in EPA per play, 32nd in success rate. You talked about Bosa. Consistently, time and time again, you have seen the Bills' edges struggle when they're put into conflict. You see this a lot, like the red zone. But I mean, if I'm Sean Payton, I'm going so hard the option in the backfield.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that Chiefs game where it was 4th down and they left him totally unblocked, and he was so confused that he like turned around thinking it was a screen, but there was no screen. There was just nobody blocking him.
Yeah,
really
I mean,
okie doke too.
So Ed Oliver might be back.
Yes,
monitoring the situation. Who it's funny because like at the very beginning of the year before he got hurt, I feel like he had one like amazing run performance against the run, and then he went out and everything just kind of fell apart. He's their best defensive lineman. Mm-hmm. Always a question mark, you know, when a guy comes back, how impactful will he be? It seems like he's going to play though, Bill.
Yeah, it does. And he'll be at least part of the rotation. And I think that's a big thing. They've had kind of a weird year. They signed Larry Ogunjobi and Michael Hoyt, and those guys immediately got suspended, which is not really what you're hoping for when you sign guys in free agency. Hoyt then came back and got hurt. He's out for the year. He was actually really good before he got hurt. And then Ogunjobi's kind of played his way out of the rotation. I think he was a healthy scratch last week. And so they just need dudes they can rely upon. So even if they get Oliver back for 25 snaps, that would be such an upgrade for them. So I do think he's going to play. And then the other question is, what do they do at linebacker? Because Shaq Thompson had a pick last week. Terrell Bernard wasn't able to play. Kind of feels like the Bills have soured on Bernard a bit this year. I mean, there's someone who they signed to an extension, kind of felt like he was going to be part of their linebacker room moving forward. And now it kind of feels like, you know, the classic Sean McDermott Panthers thing of just let's get a guy who used to be on Carolina. If Thompson's better against the run, I feel like the Broncos don't really have the receivers you would think who are going to exploit the middle of the field and exploit those linebackers in coverage. So I lean towards the run defender.
It is really like the story of the 2026 Bills, which is like, oh, all the old guys are kind of better. Or not all of them, but like Milano and Thompson, both I thought were really good last week. And yeah, I do think that I'll be interested in the Bills this year. And you know this, I don't know if we've talked about it, but they're much more willing to play base than nickel. So this is, until this year, really was defense that lived in nickel, meaning 5 defensive backs in the field more than any team in the NFL. But this year, they've really shown a willingness to mix it up. The Broncos like putting big bodies on the field. They'll put a fullback on the field. They'll do some 6 offensive line stuff. So I think there'll be opportunities for Denver to pass out of that. One thing that I am interested in from the passing game, and perhaps a big part of why I'm putting so much emphasis on the run game is, and I think it feels like this is the week when everyone's kind of started to talk about it a bit. Sean McDermott is kind of on one.
Yeah.
Like the Bills now lead the league in disguised coverage, according to True Media. You saw this a lot last week against Jacksonville. And
they got Trevor for a pick.
And I think versus Bo Nix, Bo loves, if he sees man coverage, to pick his matchup and throw it to Cortland Sutton. Or there was one where he thought the guy was he threw like a go ball to Pat Bryant, that was, or a comeback, a back shoulder or something. He's gonna throw that, right? It concerns me a little bit if the Bills are showing man and then playing zone, rotating their safeties, that you could end up with Bo Nix being put in some challenging situations.
Yeah, I mean, this is go back to Seth Wickerson's book, right? I mean, there's a whole chapter in there about Bo Nix and how the thing Sean Payton really liked about Bo Nix was the avoidance of negative plays. And one of the ways you do that is by avoiding the middle of the field. I mean, the Jalen Hurts thing this year is like, if the middle of the field is lava, there's fewer bodies to get in there, fewer people to tip the pass away, fewer overthrows. Like, it's going to be a low risk, probably low percentage shot to the outside. They love throwing the fades. They love throwing the comebacks. They love the hinge routes. Like, Bo Nix wants to throw vertical and outbreaking routes. He'll throw occasional crossers. They'll run mash. They'll run digs. Like, it happens, but they really want to run that stuff to the outside because it's really hard to have disguise coverage, to have someone get in the way, to have, if Bo Nix puts it in the right spot, it's either going to be a completion or an incompletion. It's not going to be a pick. And so the Bills are really good on throws to the outside. They're seventh best in the NFL in QBR on throws outside the numbers. And Bo Nix, I think he has the fifth highest rate of passing yards on those throws to the outside. Like in terms of like 59% of his throws, his passing yardage comes on throws outside the numbers. And so I think that's how they're going to try to avoid this. But those Bills cornerbacks are going to have a good game. They didn't have Maxwell Hairston last week, the rookie first round pick. I think he's still questionable for this week. But like you're looking at not the most imposing set of receivers in football. I think underrated in some cases, but it's not like these are, burners. It's not like these are great dudes. Like they're going to get stuff schemed up for them to get open, not getting open on their own typically. And so I think that's the way you challenge that if you're the Broncos, is just turn it into a one-on-one game. Get rid of the middle of the field, throw to the outside, throw downfield, avoid trap coverage, avoid palms. And if you can do that, I think you're going to at least mitigate the mistakes and hope you can run the ball enough that you don't need to have Bo Nix throwing a ton of times in this game.
Yeah, one of Trey White's pass breakups was in palm. There were three, I think. One was like where he was like on the out, it was like kind of like a cover three. The one on Strange, but there was one where he jumped the out.
Where he flies in from off camera and suddenly he's like teleporting in to break up a pass.
Bo Nix is going to have to push the ball downfield. This Bills defense is much better against short passes than it is against intermediate ones, and it's better against intermediate ones than it is against deep passes. And hand to heart, I cannot tell you right now if he's going to have a good day throwing downfield or a bad one. Which, by the way, that's not Bo Nix slander per se. Like, he's entirely capable of a great one. I want to throw that. It is within the realm of possibility. He could have the Packers game against his. It's me saying I don't know. I just don't know.
It's okay not to know. The accurate answer is not to know for Bo Nix. I mean, you told us this. He runs one of the highest off-target rates in the NFL. Some of that's by design. Some of that is like, let's put it in a place where it's either going to be caught or going to be an incompletion. But like, he does miss throws downfield. I think if you're a Broncos fan watching every week, you see that. But like you said, he can have a quarter like he did against the Eagles or the Giants. He can have a half. He can have a whole game like he did against the Packers, where if his footwork is right, if he is throwing from a good base, if he's not panicked, he can be a phenomenal downfield thrower. But truly, I don't think anybody knows, including Sean Payton and especially including Bo Nix, what's coming out on a play-by-play basis.
To that end, I am taking Buffalo here.
Ooh.
Denver's very slightly favored at home. Last week, in addition to making the mistake of trusting a goddamn kicker, Dominique and I talked about this. When I was looking at like Josh Allen versus Jags, the haunting of quarterback versus team, and I picked the quarterback, the Chiefs last year, the Super Bowl.
Yep.
I was like, pick the team, pick the better team. I am not picking the better team this time. I'm picking the quarterback. I just think Josh Allen, that performance last week was so perfect, and I know he's hurt, and this defense is much harder, but he is like right now fitting the definition of like god tier quarterback, hot at the right time.
Yeah, and I think the Broncos defense is not as dominant as people perceive it to be. And as I said that, I could see myself showing up in the Broncos post-game celebration social media video where they allowed like 6 points and Josh Allen gets knocked out of the game in the second quarter after getting hit 12 times. But they were bad for a month and then they got back up. So I think that masked that they had been struggling. I think they're not on the level of like the Texans defense. I think the Bills defense maybe a little underrated, especially against the pass. I do think the Bills are not. Yeah, the Broncos I think are the better team, but not by that much. And the quarterback upgrade, especially with Josh Allen playing 4-down football, which I think he will be in this game, is just too much, I think, for the Broncos to overcome.
All right, Niners Seahawks, biggest spread of the week. So before we started taping, I texted you, have you heard that Fred Warner might play? I thought it was impossible, but I got a text from someone saying it's not impossible. That's a real fly in the ointment of my analysis here if he plays. But then he's like coming off the injury. Who knows? It just seems crazy. Right. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. I'm going to talk about this game as though he's not playing. And then maybe we can discuss what might be different if he does. But let's start with
Sure.
I mean, these teams just played. So this is a really easy one not easy, but I mean, it is very rare that you get the week 18 and then for Seattle, the immediate rematch. Looking back at that game, it was a story of defensive domination on the part of Seattle. And the score is kind of misleading, not misleading per se, but ended up being only 13-3, right?
17-3, I
Or
believe.
7, yeah. So Seattle missed field goals, and then they just crapped out in the red zone, and that is an issue for them, and we'll get to that. Red zone offense is something I highlighted here.
No, it was 13-3. I apologize.
13-3. So, but Purdy had a weird turnover where McCaffrey copped one up to Drake Thomas. But I mean, looking back though at just the Niners offense, I mean, this was their worst EPA per play performance of the season. They were not moving the ball well. Brock Purdy had averaged, this is something that really jumped out to me. Purdy only averaged 4.9 air yards per attempt, lowest of the season. He didn't attempt a single deep ball. Thing that I think reflects that, and this is where I want to start with you. They had a pretty high play action rate. He went 8 for 9. Oh, for 39 yards of a play action, which is insane. And I think reflects part of it.
Was Kevin Patullo there?
I mean, so I went back and watched some of the reps of play action just to kind of figure out, and the Seahawks were just all over. Like the concepts, the middle of the field stuff. The linebackers look so well coached against it in this game. Bill, is there any reason to think that they might have more success through the air this time? Notably, Trent Williams didn't play in that game too, so we can get to that.
That was sort of the thing that was coming to mind, is maybe they'll have better pass pro, or maybe pass pro they trust more. But Trent Williams did allow three quick pressures against the Eagles, which is out of character for him. I mean, he was playing really well this year. That would be like when we played Myles Garrett, he might have allowed a couple of quick pressures, but that was kind of the exception to the rule. So even if Trent Williams plays, I don't know if it's Trent Williams in body. I think it's him in name, perhaps. And that seems really concerning to me. I feel like the other thing that you didn't mention that I think is really important is that George Kittle is not playing in this game. And so not only does that deprive the Niners of one of the most unique, dynamic, explosive players in the league, someone who makes their run game better, who makes their pass game better, who makes their play action game better, but it sort of limits their formational flexibility, right? Like, you can't live in 12 or play 12 more often when you're playing 21, which I think is what they're going to do to counter that. Two running backs, two wide receivers, one tight end. That one tight end is no longer a freak. It's Jake Tonjes or Luke Farrell, who are okay, but they're not George Kittle. And so it does feel like they're going to have to live in like a limited version of the world they want to live in. And that's going to make it easier for the Seahawks because there's only going to be so many things they can do out of those looks. Something Dominique said when we were, I think it was Dominique, when we were talking about that Niners victory, is after the Brock Purdy interceptions against the Eagles, maybe in years past, or maybe it was Solak actually, excuse me, not Dominique. It was one of those two. They're both smart. But after, yes, they look so similar. Brock Purdy threw a couple picks, and in years past, Kyle Shanahan might have been like, okay, we're closing up shop. Like, we are running the ball. Screw this. I think it was Solak, actually. But now they have no choice. Like, on offense and defense, they have a very limited and clear path to me to how they can win any game, let alone this game. And so it feels like they have to live in that drop back world. And that, to me, seems like a very dangerous risk because, like you said, they can't even create, or they haven't been able to create those explosives off a play action against the Seahawks.
Yeah, the Seahawks also completely dominated them on the ground. McCaffrey, right. Like you said, Shanahan's not stubborn about it against good run defenses. McCaffrey only had 8 carries for 23 yards and a 25% success rate against Seattle. Seattle never once had to get into base. This is, of course, the calling card of the Seahawks defense, that they're a dominant run defense. Nick Emmon-Mori was unbelievable in this game. Yeah. Holy mackerel. Like, he was taking on Juszczyk in the run game. He was also like tackles in the open field, racing McCaffrey. I just think what you saw in that game, and I still feel this way, is they're just a really bad they're a bad matchup for everybody. But for a Niners team that really needs you to put bigger bodies on the field and throw on you, they're an especially bad matchup right now.
Can we take a moment for the Seahawks defenses of yore who were tormented for so many years by Kyle Shanahan in play action? All the linebackers of years past who were chasing ghosts for minutes on end, the safeties who were looking at the entirely wrong part of the field as Debo Samuel ran past them for 70-yard
Oh
touchdowns.
my god.
It's
I
really
just
been fixed after all these years.
it is so crazy to watch this a Seahawks defense completely own this offense. Because people, yeah, like this was the worst. I would argue. I mean, 223, they were 28th in DVOA. They were so bad against play action, man.
Mm-hmm.
And so to go back and watch those reps, it was like it's like stunning. And then they're
Yes.
so good against the motions on the ground because most of the Niners' run game is very centered on using motion to try to get favorable angles.
Mm-hmm.
Just so disciplined in terms of staying in their gaps,
Yeah.
communicating, bumping guys over. They're just I was just watching them and I was like everybody they would they played a lot of five-man fronts on early downs against San Francisco, and the edges were just like brick walls against this run game.
I mean, let me ask you, if you were Kyle Shanahan and you were hoping to desperately find some kind of solution to move the ball, you're not going to score 30 points in this game, but if you think, okay, we can get to 17, we can win this game, how are you getting to 17 points on offense in this game?
I don't think it's running the ball.
I don't either.
Pearsall's probably playing in this, right? It seems like because he missed
But
last
like,
week. I
is he
know. Can he count?
100%? Is he going
Yeah.
to leave in the second quarter? Like I just at this point it feels like anything from Pearsall is a bonus.
Yeah. Um,
Speaking of old guys who are suddenly playing well, Demarcus Robinson is on the Brandon Cooks club of like suddenly he's an impact player in the postseason.
yeah. Bill, I don't really know. Honestly, I was trying to find like I did this for the Texans. We're gonna get to. I was trying to find like the weaknesses, and I really struggled. There's been games where there's been issues in the secondary and lapses, but a lot of those were injury related. Um, I think Emin is really, he was amazing. I think you can get him on intermediate throws and
Yeah.
you can get him to,
Mm-hmm.
so that might be something I would try, especially if he's very nosy against the run.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
How
this
about
is
maybe
stuff.
like McCaffrey choice routes, like maybe trying to isolate the linebackers in coverage. Like not that they're
Yeah.
bad in coverage, but just McCaffrey's such a beast there. So maybe like a lot of vertical routes, then trying to get McCaffrey isolated against some of the other players underneath. Like he can run away from Emin because he can run away from anybody in space. But the only way it works to me, and this is cheating, but it's true, and the only way I think the Niners have a chance in this game is if the quarterback on the other side of the field throws them 3 short fields, which I'm not saying it's going to happen, but like it's not out of the realm of possibility that happens either.
All right, so let's flip it because I mentioned that Brock Purdy had his lowest average depth of target.
Yep.
Sam Darnold had his second low. He averaged only 5.2 air yards per attempt. He had his second longest time to throw of the season, which all his five longest times to throws have all come after week 10. So, I've talked a lot on this pod about Darnold's struggles down the stretch. It seems to me, though, Bill, that he is very determined not to turn over the football. I think he got
Mm-hmm.
spooked by the multiple turnover games. He tried, by
Yep.
the way, the last time these teams played, going back and watching.
Yes.
But I have to think they're going to have a very similar game plan to what they did the last time these teams played.
Yeah.
Very run heavy, lots of 21 personnel. They put their fullback,
Mm-hmm.
Robbie Oos, on the field, and they ran the ball really great they actually hit a couple of, they're like only 2 explosives. It was like a play action crosser to JSN and a dig to JSN, also out of 21 personnel, and they got their Niners to play base defense. But in 21 personnel, they averaged 6 yards a carry and had a 55% success rate. I feel like they're just going to copy paste.
Yeah. I mean, if you're the Niners, like you can't allow explosives on the ground. You're doomed. And the Seahawks did hit more explosive on the ground in the second half of the season. Like that was kind of the thing that did propel their run game forward. They were, to me, unlucky in the first half of the year, especially given the dudes they
Running.
have. Like, yeah, like seeing Kenneth Walker not being able to hit a 20-yard run for most of the year just makes no sense. It's like watching some of the Saquon Giants years. Just like my brain doesn't work. Like you're fast. You should be hitting a 50-yarder, and they did. Like Charbonnet hit a bunch of them in that game.
Yeah.
That should be in there, especially with the Niners. Whether we don't know where Fred Warner's playing or not, but like the Niners linebackers are fourth stringers at this point, so like they should be able to outgap them, outpace them, and then if they get the second level, run past those Niners linebackers. But so in the first half of the second Rams game, Sam Darnold averaged 0.8 air yards per throw. Like
So
it feels like in these big games,
they're trying to hide him.
they're trying to hide him, get the
They
ball
did
out
it.
quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like if you can run the ball effectively, you don't need
Yes.
to put Sam exposed. But it feels like if they do slow down the run in this game, and having Fred Warner back theoretically would help that, and Sam does have to drop back on third and long, that's where it gets concerning to me. But
Yeah.
if you're a Seahawks fan, I have some good news for you. The Rams got a couple picks in that second game with disguised coverages. They love spinning their safeties post snap, love having a kind of murky post snap assignments, and that led to a couple picks. The Niners are last in the NFL by a significant margin in their disguised coverage rate. They are very straightforward with what they run. And given that they're down to backups in so many places, I don't think they're suddenly going to get super creative and rely on everyone to not blow assignments by disguising stuff again in this matchup. So I think that makes it easier for Sam to avoid mistakes. And I think that is going to be what this comes down to for the Seahawks on offense.
Yeah, the struggles of the Seahawks offense the second half of the season had a lot to do with teams just basically like daring them to run the ball, no longer playing single high, no longer putting big bodies on the field. But the Niners just can't afford to do that. Like they played a lot of single high in this game. They sold out to stop the run. So they didn't sell it to stop the run, pardon me, but like they weren't playing, just sitting back. And I think as long as Seattle can run the ball with some decent efficiency, and the first game suggests that they can, that protects the passing game to a large extent. And the run game, I want to say this about Seattle, while the passing game has absolutely gone downhill in the second half of the season, the run game has ticked up and up and up. And it really reflects this is how defenses play them. Weeks 1 through 9, they were 26th in success rate and 29th in the EPA per play running the ball. Weeks 10 through 18, 17th in success rate and 11th in EPA per play. So they're not like the best, but they've hit on explosives. They've been able to punish teams that play them light. And unless Fred Warner comes back and looks like Fred Warner, Bill, this Niners run defense, I understand we just saw Philadelphia really struggle against them, but I find it hard to believe that Seattle's going to be significantly worse on the ground this time around.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Eagles' run offense struggled against everybody this season, especially when they had a lead in the second half. And then one of the other ways Niners might be able to pull an upset, usually special teams, they have an advantage. We saw them beat the Rams special teams, but the Seahawks special teams just as good. Number 1 and number 3 in special teams win probability. So it just feels like there's so many paths for the Seahawks to win and so few for the Niners to win. And I'm not saying it's impossible. Like, again, if they get a Kenneth Walker fumble, if they don't allow a run over 12 yards, if they get 2 Sam picks, like, yes, they could turn 3 short fields into 21 points and win this game. But that's it. That feels like the only way they can do it.
Yeah. I'm taking the Seahawks here.
Me too.
You
for
too?
2.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, the next 2 games are both 3.5 point lines, so we'll see. Take a break, quick break, come back. Texans, Patriots. All right, we're back. Texans, Patriots. I went on Eric Wood's podcast and he asked me who impressed me the most in Wild Card weekend. And I said, well, the Niners impressed me the most given the injuries. But I think the Texans defense was the single most dominant unit of any team, right? Like just jarring, terrifying. Dominique and I have talked about how we like kind of want a Texans Seahawks Super Bowl just for the just the filth of it. So let's start there. Let's start the Texas defense, very scary against the Patriots offense. And I'm going to start by asking you, I guess I could have asked this about Seattle. You asked me, is there a weakness? Is there anything like when you watch this Texans defense and we just saw them, pile drive Aaron Rodgers into Cancun? Can you be pile driven into
Permanent
Cancun?
Cancun. Life Cancun.
The great Cancun
He's
in the
not coming
sky.
back. Yes, the great Cancun in the sky.
I have some thoughts.
Yeah.
I think one of them I know you're gonna hit too. Is there anything that jumps to mind in terms of like things that they can do?
Scrambles.
Yes, that's the
Down
first
on
thing.
your list.
Yes.
9.2 yards per scramble, most of any team in the NFL. And like that's a product of them being really good at matching to routes and managing route distributions really well and sticking to receivers and having linebackers who want to take your quarterback's head off and who occasionally get a little too excited when they try to do that. And so like you're not going to win the game with 8 scrambles. Like this is not going to be September Patrick Mahomes scramble remote for Drake May, but like can that pick you up a couple of 3rd and longs? That would be great if you can get that for the Patriots. You can attack them downfield. And I think that's, for the Patriots, like the most plausible way they score in this game is like hitting a 40-yard completion every quarter or every, hitting 3 of them in the game. And again, like that's the product of having cornerbacks you really trust. They trust Derek Stingley. They trust Kamari Lassiter. They trust Jalen Petrie. And like getting runaways for those guys, stretching those guys vertically. Maybe you get a completion. Maybe you get a PI. Like they will commit PI. Like they will happily try to compete with your receivers for the ball. Patriots have been so good in those contested catches this year on throws downfield. That feels like the most likely scenario. But like these aren't things where it's like, oh, consistently every single series they can go to X or go to Y. And that's going to be like anything.
I'm going to throw at
really?
you. Those are 2 of the 3 things that I wrote down. One, the scrambling thing is the most obvious thing. And with the Texans defense, that's been a feature for, it's not a bug. It's just, it's structural as you alluded to, but like, you remember Lamar running roughshod on, like, it's just, and Drake May is Drake May had a bunch of huge scrambles against the Chargers, who in a similar way are vulnerable to QB runs, but he's going to have to use his legs, just full stop. The Texans pass defense chokes you out. You cannot beat them by showing short. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers put that on display. Yeah. They're still good against deep passes, but teams have been able to hit on some deep balls. And so Drake May, Kayshon Boutte, it's going to have to happen a few times in this game. The other thing that I threw in here, can you guess based on what I teased earlier? The 6 offensive line.
Oh, I was saving it for the Texans side of things.
I wrote for both teams.
Yeah.
From this point on, I think I have 6 offensive line now. This game, I actually wrote this is the 6 OL game because both of these teams will need to do that. So with Houston, there's a few reasons. I thought the Patriots' offensive line performance in the wild card round was really concerning. The way that the Chargers were able to attack on the left side, and here comes Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter.
Yes.
So the Patriots were able to get to like a couple of their deep balls out of. I think they're both of their deepest throws were out of 6 offensive line. They put Thayer Munford on the field. And I feel like versus Houston, they're going to counter that with their base defense. They're still very good. So shots, which we alluded to, are part of that because they hit on shots out of that. But I also think if you can get EJ Speed, who's their 3rd line, this is how stacked Texans defense is. I'm like, try to get their 3rd linebacker on the field. Yeah. But that would be the weakness that I wonder. So it's not just deep balls. I think there would be some linebacker, like some check down screen opportunities against the linebacker group out of those looks as well.
Yeah, like that's it. I mean, like that is the totally viable, totally reasonable thing to do. But like, again, like, is that going to lead to the Patriots averaging 5 yards per carry and being in 3rd and short every single series? No, like it's just, there's so few ways to do this that I think you have to be willing to be explosive. Like, I don't think you can manage this game the way the Steelers tried to do it and survive. You cannot march down the field with a 10-play drive. Like we talked about the Bills and Broncos, where Broncos defense was very good last year, but the Bills were able to consistently get to third and short and move the ball. And that is just so hard to do against the Texans because they're going to sack you, they're going to get a TFL, they're going to make you commit a penalty. And then just in third and long, they are an absolute nightmare. They get all their twists going. They can run some sim pressures. They can move guys around. Danico Autry is a terror. And I feel like, him against Jared Wilson's a mismatch.
Really good. I mean,
yeah. I mean, like there's just, when I would watch them every week, I'd watch them on tape and I would watch all the sacks. I'd watch all the pressures and be like, I'd have a new guy every week. I was like, man, I did not know that guy was that good. And every week a different person would pop up. And that's very scary for the Patriots, where like it's true that their line is so much improved versus what it was last year. But Will Campbell has been below average pass protector. Jared Wilson's been a below average pass protector. Those guys both better as run blockers this season to me. And like, if I can see it, I know D'Amico Ryans can see it. So I think you're going to see them deal with a lot of twists, a lot of games. And then, the Will Anderson speed rush, the Neil Hunter speed rush that we saw last week. Drake May twice turned the ball over, I believe, on plays where he held the ball for a hitch or two too long. Guys got in his face, strip sacked him. Like, you cannot do that and survive against the Texans.
Yeah. Stevenson as a pass catcher, I think, needs to be part of this.
For sure.
The running back. Yeah, it's funny because you asked me with the Texans or the Seahawks, pardon me. I honestly don't know which of these defenses is easier to game plan for. They both seem absolutely impossible right now. Okay, so other side of the ball is Patriots fans. If you're like, wow, that sounded grim. I think I have better news for you on the other side of the ball, because this Texans offense really tried to give the game away. It was a weird performance because CJ hit on some like dimes, but then he also committed some just disastrous fumbles.
It felt like they did the classic "How do the Steelers win this game?" script.
Yes, yeah. I posted that during the game. I was like, I've seen Mike Tomlin win this game every day.
Yes, that's why Mike Tomlin quit. He was like, if we can't win this game, I'm screwed. I got to go. But the Texans defense was so dominant that they dragged them out of that game. One thing we should mention before hitting, I think, on this side of the football is the injury situation, because this is huge and changes how both these teams might approach this game. So Christian Gonzalez and Nico Collins both in concussion protocol. As we record this, it looks like Christian Gonzalez closer to passing through than Collins. Christian Gonzalez is back in practice in a non-contact jersey. Nico Collins has not been seen so far this week. So obviously, you don't need me to give you the numbers, but like I can give you the numbers. CJ Stroud, 81.7 QBR this year throwing to Nico Collins, 57.9 throwing to anybody else. Like, it is a massive drop-off if they don't have Nico Collins in this game.
They do have their own Christian, and his name is Christian
Kirk.
That would be Mr. Kirk, who we talked about guys turning back the clock, went nuclear.
Yes.
They got the matchup against Brandon Echols and just spammed it. I also think, especially if Gonzalez plays, that's something you're going to want to hit. You want to go after Marcus Jones, who's a fine nickel. He's not Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis. And so I think, especially if Collins doesn't play, you're going to kind of need another turn back the clock performance. Like, you're going to need it. It's not just like, oh, that's crazy that happened.
Yes.
It would actually have, like, I don't see them having success unless he has another big game.
So let's say Collins doesn't play in this game and Gonzalez does, because right now to me that seems like the most likely scenario. Then again, I also said Lane Johnson was going to play last week and Trent Williams wasn't, and made my prediction based on that. And oops. But let's say that happens. The Patriots this year, all summer, I talked about this with you on TV. We talked about it separately. It looked like the Patriots are going to be a really man-heavy defense, because you have Christian Gonzalez, who was great in man the last couple of years. They signed Carlton Davis, who was a man-heavy corner in Tampa and Detroit. And then they played man at the 23rd highest rate of anybody in football. They were not a man-heavy team this year whatsoever. And I sort of wonder, like, do they have that changeup in them? Like, could they play man 50% of the time in a game? And if there was ever a spot where it felt like it would call for it, would it not be Texans receivers without Nico Collins?
I think they will. I think they're going to blitz too. They had a lot of success blitzing Herbert It was kind of interesting though, looking back, the four-man rush for New England, according to NGS, had a 18% pressure rate against the Chargers. A lot of those sacks were actually coverage sacks or the pressures and hits they got. Um, to me, like, yeah, the Patriots, even with Milton Williams back and he was very good, the pass rush isn't dominant. And so you're going, I've mentioned before, Stroud's been much better. He's been good against the blitz this year. But I
Mhm.
feel like with no Collins, you are much more comfortable sending pressure. Um, I think if Houston runs the ball though the way they did against Pittsburgh,
Mhm.
and this is an interesting one, right? Because it's like the Houston run game has been bad all year, but has
Yeah.
kind of ticked up lately and is coming off of one of their best games. A lot of six offensive line. The Patriots' run defense was awful, but then they started ticking up. And against the Chargers, they had a phenomenal game, and they've gotten guys back, Spillane as well,
Williams, yeah.
Williams. So it's kind of like all right, who are you? What you were the course of the season,
Yes.
or are both of these? Which of these sides is actually improved coming into this?
I believe the Patriots run defense more than the Texans run game because,
Because the players
like,
are back.
nothing changed. Like, you just played the Steelers, whose run defense is secretly pretty bad. Like, Woody Marks and Nick Chubb suddenly didn't become really
Yeah,
great running backs overnight. And when the Texans use 6-0, which they do more than anybody else in football, like, they're not an efficient run game. They average 3.2 yards per carry when they use 6 offensive linemen. To me, that is and they're going to run the ball to set up play action and set up the passing game, of course, in those groupings, but like, that's can we get shots downfield? Because they average more than 10 yards per
yeah,
attempt throwing the football out of 6-0. That is like can our pretty bad tackles, can our scary interior offensive linemen hold up long enough with an extra dude just so we can get, Nico on a deep over, we can get Hutchinson on a deep post. Like, can we get guys open downfield with that extra offensive lineman? And so that's what that feels like to me as a weapon.
yeah.
I don't think the Texans, like, it's always possible, but like, even if they're good by Texan standards in this game, that's like 3.8 yards per carry. Like, it's just not horrifically bad.
The
And
yeah, the numbers went up because they hit on explosives. The success rate was
right,
still awful from 30th in success rate since week 10, but then they jumped to 13th in the APA per play, so they were able to hit on a few
mm-hmm.
explosive runs. But yeah, I'm with you. I think the Patriots' run defense, a lot of the struggles were injuries. They didn't have Tonga
I think so.
in that game
Yeah,
too. I think he's going to play this week. So
right. And the other thing is, like, you want to run well in the red zone, and the Texans are 31st in success rate in the red zone, and that is the way teams have beaten the Patriots this year, is winning in the red zone. The Patriots, the worst red zone defense in all of football. Unfortunately, the Texans, because they can't run the ball, are, I believe, the third worst red zone offense in football in terms of turning points into touchdowns. Now, they're going to get like 3 chances or 4 chances in this game. A lot can happen in a 3 or 4 drive sample. If they score 3 touchdowns on those drives, they could probably win this game. But I just don't think they're going to be in position to score touchdowns very often in those spots. And unfortunately, now that Mike Tomlin is retired, D'Amico Ryans has inherited the guy who is desperately committed to playing 2003 2003 fourth down decisions in the
yeah.
red zone, which is not going to help the Texans in this game at all.
Oh man, I went into this leaning Texans.
Yeah.
But then, because I was like, I believe in this Texans defense so much, and I'm having so much trouble finding ways to move the ball. But the Nico Collins injury makes me very concerned about picking. I like the. I also don't see like a clear path for their offense. I think this is going to be a very low scoring game.
Mm-hmm.
Um.
Something else. One thing I want to mention before you make your decision.
Okay.
Weather is going to be a factor potentially in this game. According to the weather report I saw, 2.4 inches of snow expected on Sunday in New England. Rain, snow potentially during the game. And I will say, like, we would imagine that's going to impact CJ Stroud because he plays in a dome. When Drake May played earlier this year in Tampa in the rain, he looked awful. The weather got much better as the game wore on, and he was great from that point forward, but he was a mess early in that game, missing throws in the rain. So this could be like a real slop fest if we get some bad weather and both these teams can't throw the ball well.
I'm going to stick with my initial gut and go
Wow.
with the Texans defense. They're just so good. I also think
Wow.
Stroud is a streaky quarterback, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it was, like I said, like the last game was like such a bizarre, because he really did some impressive things in addition to, are you on New England?
Yeah. I feel like I don't want to make the same picks as you, and I feel like we do think so similarly that I usually have the same pick as
This
you, but this is
was.
going to be the
Sure
one
did.
where we separate, I think.
I mean, I do like Vrabel if it comes down to like weird
Weird coaching
yeah,
stuff.
weird coaching, weird.
Well, you know.
Okay, I'm
I,
sticking
I
with
do
the
feel like
Texans. Yeah.
I do feel like was it the Patriots last week who were taking advantage of the subs where they were like
Yes.
slowly working
Yes,
their
they kept
guys on the
making
field?
the Chargers, yeah. I mean,
I like that.
yes. All right, Rams Bears.
More weather.
Yeah, I was just about to say that I haven't checked, but it seems pretty miserable.
18 degrees, 13-mile-an-hour winds, potentially some snow. Um, who do you think that impacts more?
LA.
Really? LA, I guess I was thinking quarterbacks. Do you think like the broader LA roster?
Yeah. LA offense.
I don't
Well, let's
know.
talk quarterbacks. Which quarterback do you think impacts more?
I would say Caleb because
Yeah.
I think people see Matthew Stafford now and they're like, oh, well, he's in Los Angeles. People forget he was playing road games in Chicago and Green Bay for a decade. Like, it's not like this is the first time he's had to experience bad weather. And if throwing the ball is not advisable, Bears have a really good run game. The Rams have the best success, like the third best success rate
Yeah.
for any running game over the last decade. And we'll talk about that, but I just think it feels like the Bears are going to be more desperate to throw maybe in this game than the Rams will.
Really? You think so?
I don't know. I mean,
I
you
think
can
both of
talk me
these
out of
teams
it.
will be able to run on both of these teams. I wrote.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree for sure.
Well, let's start with the Rams offense versus the Bears defense, because throughout the year I've been accused of Bears fans of being a non-believer, and I have been a non-believer in the defense. Ben and I have actually gone back and forth on this. I'm like, I don't believe they are not good. There's too many issues. And for one half of football, that proved to be correct. And then the Bears defense clamped down, man, and played their best half of football. Would you not say that half of football against Green Bay was their best of the 2025 season?
I mean, it was good.
Given
I'm
the
not
opponent.
arguing with that. But, like, this kind of proves your point. The Packers scored 27 points in that game. They left 7 points on the field with field goals and missed extra points. And, like, if that's your victory lap, and I'm not saying it's your victory, I'm saying Bears fans would take that as their victory lap, I think that kind of confirms that maybe the defense is a little stinky.
Well, so I found what they did in the second half to be interesting as well. They were still aggressive in terms of sending pressure, but they also played a lot of man coverage behind their 4-man rush. They blitzed their corners a lot. The Packers play a lot of condensed formations.
Yep.
So do the Rams. So, Bill, let me ask you this. Do you think the approach that Dennis Allen took in the second half against the Packers is similar to what they should do against LA?
Nope. I do not want to see those Bears corners against Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams in man coverage. I do not think that is a recipe for success. That is a recipe for Puka Nacua 200-yard game. I do not want that. We'll talk about some of the decisions the Rams can make with personnel, I'm sure, but what I found interesting is that at the end of that game, the Packers basically stopped throwing at the outside corners. Like, they were just going after Kyler Gordon, no matter who was on him, every single snap, outbreakers, crossers, hitches, like slot fades, like whatever they could do to go at Kyler, they were going at him. And he came back for that game, but he wasn't playing early in the game. Nick McLeod was in the slot, and they sort of went to Kyler Gordon almost out of desperation, it felt like, as the game wore along. And so I think if you're Sean McVay, we'll talk about the linebackers because that's a weakness too. But I would imagine you're going to see whatever they can do to get Puka Nacua matched up against Kyler Gordon in this game. And I just don't see that as a good man matchup for the Bears.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with you, but they have to find a way to pressure Stafford.
They have to do something, for sure.
It's a bit of a catch-22 because because against the Packers, they were able to have success with their 4-man rush. They also ran some fire zones early in the second half that worked. But the Packers' offensive line was very injured, and I put out we talked about this on Tuesday. I think the injuries on the Packers' offensive line were kind of the story of the second half for me.
Mm-hmm.
Rams' offensive line is significantly better. I just feel like if their approach is to just rush with 4 in this game, they're not going to have a chance. So you have to almost play the variance game a bit and find a way to, because we've seen this year, if Matthew Stafford is kept clean, it's over. But
yeah.
And
they're getting Kevin Dotson back in this game as well, right?
Yes.
That's not going to help the Bears defensive line getting back the Rams' best interior lineman. It sort of feels like it's not only that, it's not just rushing 4, but maybe it's like, what are you playing behind it? Like, can you trap Stafford? Can you trick him? He's seen it all before, but like Matthew Stafford will throw the ball into a tight window. He has no qualms about putting the ball in a place he thinks an opening is, even if it's a very small window. And we saw, Mike Jackson got what looked like a really easy pick on first glance because Matthew Stafford thought a window was there and it wasn't. So it feels like that's the way the Bears have to do this. Like you can, when we talk about like high variance defenses, there's what the Lions did last year with Aaron Glenn, where it was, hey, we have like 8 NFL players left, 50% man, 60% man rate, 50% blitz rate. Like, we're just going to come after you every single snap. That's a way you can do that. Another high variance way is just, can we disguise our coverages? Can we trap? Can we spin our safeties? Can we get guys in throwing lanes? Can we mask our post-snap assignments as much as possible? Harder to do without TJ Edwards. And that's going to be a big loss for the Bears in this game. But like, that feels like the way they get the high variance outcome to me.
So that was the other thing I wanted to hit. So TJ Edwards, their starting linebacker, injured, out. If I'm the Rams, I know I said this last time and they didn't do it until the second half. I'm really leaning to 13 because the Bears, I don't think, have the people to play base right now. And this nickel defense can't stop Kyron Williams and Blake. I'd be surprised out of those looks. So
if you love the 6 offensive lineman discussion, you'll love the 13 personnel discussion we have for you.
This is not like we were talking about the Texans defense. We're like, how do you attack them? And like, this is kind of like a pick your poison game for Sean McVay. Is there anything you think the Rams that would be a mistake to do?
Throw to Davante Adams 12 times? I mean, that was the one thing
it was weird.
That seemed a little concerning to me about the last game, is that you have Davante Adams coming back. He's gone for a month. And I don't know if he just didn't look right. Maybe it was a sloppy game, but like, he just did not seem like the same guy.
Yeah. I feel like there's just, they have a lot of answers against this team. To your
and the
point,
Bears have not faced 13 at all, really, all year. They faced 20.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to get their personnel matchup. I mean, but it's just, they're not like, they just don't have the linebackers right now. Yeah. And Kyler Gordon's a very good run defender too. So I think they're going to want him to be on the field. Okay. So on the other side, Bears fans, I know you're probably mad as me. I do think there's a lot of things that this Bears offense can do to attack, because, as good as this LA offense is, the defense has really sprouted a lot of cracks over the last 2 months, over the last 6 weeks. They're below average, particularly against the run. Alluded to that. One thing that caught my eye in that time frame, just sorting it, they are 30th in EPA per play versus play action. Going back and watching some of the success that teams have had in that time frame. I mean, in the Panthers game,
Mm-hmm.
couple Bryce, like the deep dig to McMillan
Yeah.
versus Durant. Jacoby Brissett went 9 for 11 for 93 yards. He had a corner to McBride in line that was like ripped from the Bears playbook.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a corner route. So I do think that this Rams defense has a lot of the vulnerabilities, particularly on the back end, have really begun to show up, and there is a lot of ways for Chicago to attack them.
Yeah, even over the full year, 27th in EPA per play against play action, and so
Wow.
it's not only play action, but like play action can mean a lot of different things. Like play action can mean deep post over the top. Play action can mean like a play action screen, something weird. But like, I think the specific plays, the specific concepts that Ben Johnson loves are like those runaways from the slot. That like, remember when the Lions in midseason when Dan Campbell took over and they were like, oh, we forgot to run Jamison Williams and any like crossers. We was just running vertical routes. That was what Jamison Williams did so well under Ben Johnson, and it feels like that's what he wants to do with his receivers, and that is where I think the Rams really struggle because like their linebackers they're okay. Like Nate Landman's been okay this year. Omar Spates, who's getting a lot of mentions in this episode, has been okay, but like that is very clearly the weakest part of that
Crossers is
team.
what caught my eye last week again the Panthers game.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I feel like they're bad against crossers, and they were like 30th league wide.
Yeah,
And then you saw that come to fruition. Yeah, 100%. I agree in terms of like attacking in breakers.
and Caleb will throw those. It's not like a Jalen Hurts situation where they will not throw in the middle of the field. Like that's what Caleb wants to hit.
But as I said too, I do think they can run on them. Quentin Lake came back. He got attacked a lot by
For sure.
Carolina in the passing game,
Jalen
as did
Coker, for
Kobe
sure.
Durant. Yeah, but I'm not convinced that this run defense is going to be demonstrably better. And the Bears do have, the Rams FTN does the run play classifications.
Mm-hmm.
So in that time frame I talked about, like the last 6 weeks, according to FTN, the Rams have given up 7.7 yards per carry to outside zone, which is dead last in the NFL. Don't know if you know, but there's a team in Chicago that really loves to run outside zone. And it was the Seattle hit a lot of that on them in their the last game, a lot of that under center outside zone. I think there's a lot of, I guess what I'm getting at here is a lot of the ways that the Rams defense appears weak actually sync up with the strengths of the Chicago offense.
For sure, I agree. And I would also think about their personnel groupings. Like they can run 12 with Colston Loveland and Cole
Yeah.
Kmet, and that's not what the Rams want to see. The Rams matched 12 with their base defense 40% of the time this year, and it was not fun. They allowed, I want to say, like 2 full more yards per play, matching up there with base as opposed to matching up with their nickel grouping, and they want to play dime. Like that is what, at the end of the day, Chris Shula wants to do is play dime as much as possible, and the Bears can run you out of that. Like if the Rams can hold up with 5 and especially with 6 defensive backs on the field in early downs against the Bears, then the Bears have a real problem. But I just don't think that's likely. I think the Bears are going to run them out of that stuff. The Rams also don't have Ahkello Witherspoon is out for the year. They're going to have to probably bring back Darius Williams, who's been a healthy scratch. Like, I don't know how much faith they even have in their cornerbacks. And so, like, that's a way, I think, to really, create some crises for the Rams about who we can have on the field. And if they can keep things close, like I think if you get down 21-0, it's going to be tough, although they did come back last week. Packers defense, but it's very different. Like the Packers defense and the Rams defense are very different.
Packers
the Rams
offense,
have,
more importantly, is very different
yes,
from
yes, and I don't think the Rams will average 1 yard per carry running the football for most of the game, but it does feel like the Bears can run the Rams into the personnel groupings they want and then play action the hell out of those personnel groupings once they get there.
I think for the Rams, you really want your 4-man rush to show up in a way that they've kind of been inconsistent. Ozzie Trapilo, the Bears left tackle, is out, so we're going to see Braxton Jones. So, and with the Bears, the rush containment is a big part of that, which is something I think that the Rams have been good at in the past. You can't let Caleb break the pocket. Think about the 4th and 8th rep where he hits the god level
Incredible
throw. Rashawn Gary goes inside. I think the Rams edges will play with more discipline against him. Look, like I said, I do think there is absolutely a path for the Bears offense.
For sure.
But whereas I think, like, I look at the Bears offense or the Rams defense, and I'm like, there's matchups, and but then I could see the Rams pass rush having success. When I look at the other side of the ball, I don't see it. And maybe I'm wrong. When I say I don't see it, I mean I don't. It's a lot harder for me to find answers for the Bears defense. So I'm taking LA here. Bears fans, you'll be thrilled. They're like, pick against us again. You're good luck. All right, I'm doing it. I'm taking LA, and it's because of the offense against your defense. And maybe I'll look stupid. I'm totally fine with that, but I'm gonna stick to what I believe here.
There's a way. It's a 3-turnover game. It is like Kyron Williams fumbles inside the 10-yard line. Matthew Stafford throws a pick and he gets strip sacked. Like, that is entirely possible. We saw the Panthers do it to the Rams earlier this year. Kyron fumbled inside the 5-yard line against the Niners. The other thing, special teams. Like if the Bears win this game, would it not be shocking if
yeah, you're right.
they
I
missed
don't
an extra point
anymore, but I acknowledge your Rams special teams. They gave up they had some real bad special teams moments in the Panthers games.
Yeah, the block punt was not ideal. Do you and then Ben Johnson's going to be in 4-down territorial game. I loved his answer when they asked him at halftime last week, by the way. They were like, can you explain your 4th down decisions? And he couldn't say our defense sucks, and so we have to go for it every 4th down because the Packers are going to score every time they get the ball. He was just like, we're optimizing for possessions. And it was like, well, you're right, but like he's going to be in 4-down territorial game.
Will Sean McVay.
I think he's gonna match. Like I'm so proud of him. His crew.
Yeah, he has been more aggressive. Also, are we factoring in the Sean McVay revenge for his BFF Matt LaFleur factor?
Ooh.
Have you been following this whole coach drama?
I have. I like a good coach drama
I do too,
opportunity.
It's truly just ridiculous. So from what I gather from just being on sets and listening to the chatter of the last couple of days, Sean and Matt are best friends. Matt and Ben hate each other, as we saw. So Sean would really like this is not me reporting, but don't be surprised if he wants to put a little extra oomph on this one.
I love the idea that like he wasn't gonna put any oomph on it in the divisional round of like maybe his last full season as a coach with Matthew Stafford. But he's like, you disrespected Matt LaFleur.
The pregame speech. Do it for Matt. Do it for Matt.
They're all going to come out. They're all going to come out on the sideline in the Matt LaFleur Tech Fest outfit to honor him.
Like those free Rasheed Rice shirts, but they'll make them with like Matt LaFleur and wear them pregame.
Yes.
What was I going to say? By the way, those did not age well. Jeez. I do think Sean is very competitive, and the fact that like Ben Johnson's like the hot young play caller, he's getting like I do think, and this I feel comfortable saying, he will relish the opportunity to go deep into his bag.
Is Sean McVay older than Ben Johnson?
That's a great question. Sean McVay is exactly my age, I think. Ben Johnson's 39, and Sean McVay is also 39, so they're the exact same age.
Sean McVay is
a little
5 months older than Ben Johnson.
Wow. The Wonderkin. Show him, Sean.
Yes.
All right. Wait, are you on Rams or Bears?
I'm on Rams.
Okay.
But like I'm on like 47-41, like crazy back and forth game.
Yeah. There you go, Bears fans. I did it for you again. I got you the bulletin board material. I love watching this team. I hate that I've become like a op. I love watching Caleb Williams so much. I just don't believe in the defense. Prove me wrong again. Make me look dumb. All right, that's it. 4 games this week. Very fun. Bill is the host of the Bill Barnwell podcast. You guys should check that out, obviously, wherever you get your pods. I will be back next week with Dominique to recap the divisional round on Tuesday. My coach, I'm going to put out this video where I rank the head coach job openings, so you guys can check that out at youtube.com/@MinaKimes. Hopefully they don't get filled by the time it comes out. It's so funny. Eric asked me, he was like, which one's the best? And I was like, how is anyone not saying Baltimore? Like, not to spoil the video.
Steelers
No?
job, you get 20 years. I mean, that's a pretty good thing.
20 years and no quarterback? All right.
They'll find a quarterback by like
The
2050.
Steelers do rank high in my patented system, so
Okay.
go check it out, Steelers fans. And also, if you are watching The Traders, my pod with David Dennis Jr., viewer discretion will come out on Friday. We are also recapping Fallout. Are you watching The Traders?
I am a real snob. I'm strictly a Traders UK fan. US doesn't do it for me. I'm
Did you
sorry.
know Donna
So
Kelsey was the secret trader on this season?
no,
I saw
that's
Jason.
exciting.
I wanted to ask him about it, but I felt like that would be weird. All right, that's it for this week. Thank you, as always, to my friends at Omaha Productions who make this pod: Kirsten Sabecki, Owen Saylor, Jack Foster, Tucker Tashton. See you guys next week.